How's it going? Welcome back, or if this is your first time here, my name is Devin. I'm a helicopter pilot. In this video, we're going to talk about the helicopter pilot training schedule, more specifically my training schedule as I was in flight school, kind of just to give you an overview. The reason why I wanted to talk about this topic in this video is earlier in the week, I put up a poll on my YouTube channel and I said, quick question to help me create better content. Where are you at in your helicopter journey? Now this had 8 comments, 62 votes, so this is like really good insight. And the options I put were just interested in helicopters or aviation, researching flight schools and training, currently in flight training, or working as a helicopter pilot. And the currently in flight training was like by far the biggest category. So a bunch of you guys are out there actually doing this in flight school, 47%. So that made me think back to my time in flight school, and I kind of just wanted to share what my personal day looked like as I was in flight school. Now, I went to a school called Mauna Loa Helicopters. This is in Hawaii. If you go to their Instagram page, you're going to see it is just a massive school. I mean, they pump out a lot of pilots. There's a ton of people that go to Mauna Loa Helicopters across their different bases. This is the flight line. It looked like the same way. So this is in Kona. They had all of their different R-22s lined up. On this side of the picture is where they had their R-44s lined up. So it's just a massive school, a massive program. So I wanted to talk you through what like my experience was going to this school with all these students, how they actually structured the day, how my days were structured. So we'll kind of get into it. Stick around to the end because the last slide that we go through is pretty funny, pretty interesting. So stick around to the end of that. But we'll start here with the private pilot training schedule. So when you start your flight training, you start with your private pilot at Mauna Loa. This is kind of what my day looked like. Now your day is going to look way different. There's so many different variables, but this is what my day looked like. And something I didn't really think about because I knew nothing about helicopters before I got into it is the winds are typically calmer, at least in Hawaii, but like generally typically calmer in the morning. And then as the day goes on, the winds pick up and thunderstorms move in. So what they do is they try to push like the newer people that are just learning the basics towards the early morning, right when it's most calm. As the day goes on, they'll do like the better performing students or the students that are working on higher level training because they can handle the stronger winds. So for your private pilot training schedule, I would arrive to flight school at like 6:15, and then typically my first flight was at 7 a.m. Winds are calm, it's kind of cool out, you got good performance, it's just like a chill time to fly. The day hasn't really gotten started, so that was really nice. You would fly and like 6:15 I would arrive, and then you start doing your pre-flight, looking over the helicopter, making sure everything's good to go, doing your flight planning. So that takes a while, and then 7 a.m. you actually start your flight. You would fly for, I don't know, like my flights were not typically that long. Like an hour was like kind of long at the start. We would do like 0.7 of an hour, 0.8 of an hour, 0.9, maybe an hour, but it really wasn't that long. There's just a lot that goes into initial flight training. So 7 to 8:30. 8:30 my flight was done, and then we would start. Typically we would do ground school after. Sometimes we would do it before. This is just like hypothetical. Every day we would do a ground school. You could do school under part 141, which is like more restrictive, more specified how you're going to go through training, or you could do it as part 61, which is kind of a little bit more free flowing, and maybe you don't do as much ground school. You can kind of study on your own, but every day we did ground school. So it was like very structured. So we would do our flight, and then we would do ground school for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. We would do a lot of ground school, and that's why we learned so much, and that's how we could progress so fast. So ground school was from like 9 to 11 typically, and then I was kind of done. Oh, sorry, I put this a little bit backwards. I would leave school at like 11:30, and then like 12 p.m. I would have lunch at home. So I'd go home and have lunch. And then I would need a nap. When I was first going through flight training, this morning routine was brutal. Just going and like pre-flighting and then actually flying, it was so draining. It is crazy to me now because, now I could fly for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and, it's just a regular day. I mean, I might be exhausted, but here, one flight and one ground school session, I would be exhausted. So every day I would take a nap, an afternoon nap, which I actually really enjoyed. And then I'd wake up at like 3 p.m. and I'd study. And then 5 p.m. was dinner. I'd cook myself dinner. Typically, maybe you'd have dinner with some of the people you went to school with, but usually it was by myself. And then I would go to the gym. I would try to go to the gym every day. It didn't always happen, but it was a really, really important release valve for me. Just to go out, to move some weight, just to walk, just to do something else, not think about helicopters. So I would work out for a while because it was just like free time that I had and I needed to do something to get my mind. So I'd work out from like 7 to 9 p.m. and then I'd come home and shower and then I'd go to bed by 10 p.m. So that was my private pilot training schedule. Your commercial pilot training schedule switches a little bit. So the reason I kind of prefaced at the start about the wins is because when you're going through your commercial and your CFI, at Mauna Loa, and just my experience, what your experience could be different, but they tried to push like the more advanced students during the afternoon when the winds are stronger. So 7 a.m. I'd wake up, much later wake up time. I really enjoyed that. And then I'd have breakfast, and then I'd study at 8 a.m., study for an hour and a half, kind of brief what I'm going to do, figure out what my instructor is going to, usually the instructor the day before would send you home with questions. So, you have to go answer those questions, figure out what you're doing, and just general studying. And then 9:45, I would leave for ground school. And then I'd have hypothetically, ground school from 10 to 12. Now, some days, and what you'll see on the CFI and CFII and IFR is you would do a lot more ground school than you would flying. In commercial, this is like a general schedule, like ground school from 10 to 12, but sometimes you would do way more. You would do your flight in the afternoon. Winds are like real strong in the afternoon, so you would fly from 1 to 3. During a commercial, you would definitely do longer flights. 1 hour is standard, 1.1, 1.2, maybe a 1.3. I don't know. Depend if you're just doing like regular commercial work. And then by 4 p.m., I'm leaving school. 5 p.m. dinner. And then maybe a little study session between if you got the time for it. Workout 7 to 9 p.m. late in the day, and then come home and shower and sleep. Now, what's really crazy to me now is like I feel like an old man, but I was drinking like a pre-workout at like 6:45 p.m. before I went to go work out. Like that's crazy to me, and then be asleep by 10. But I slept good, and I needed the pre-workout to like get me through the gym, but then I could come home and sleep, and like 200 milligrams of caffeine right now at like 6 p.m. would wreck me. So during your IFR pilot training schedule, now what we did at Mauna Loa, which I enjoyed, but it's definitely a weird training schedule, is progression is you would do your private and then you would do commercial and CFI at the same time. You'd work on both ratings at the same time, and then you'd finish at the same time, and then you'd go take your commercial check ride and then your CFI check ride a couple days later. And then you would do your IFR and your CFII, Certified Flight Instructor Instrument check ride. You'd work on those ratings together, and then you would take the check ride, your IFR, and then your CFII a couple days later. So definitely kind of an interesting way to go through training, but I enjoyed it. So let's look at our IFR pilot training schedule. In the mornings, when you're going through for your initial IFR, it is such a different type of flying. I mean, flying with your head in the helicopter, just focusing on the screens, altitudes, airspeeds, following localizers, glide slopes, DMEs, all of it. It's a lot. It's really hard. So you want it to be as calm as possible. So they would also, in my experience, do IFR pilot training early in the morning, your initial IFR training. So it was kind of like that early morning rotation, like your private pilot again. So like 7 a.m. you would arrive, and then from 8 to 10 you would have your flight, or maybe you're doing simulator time. In IFR, we did quite a bit of simulator time, so you could swap either or. And then from like 11 to 12 or maybe 1, you would do your personal ground school. And then here's the kicker: during your IFR, your CFI, and your CFII, it is so much more ground school than it is flying. It is just learning all of the concepts, all of the regulations, all of the rules, how things work. It's a ton of ground school. So what you'll see here is I would do like a personal ground school with my instructor, for an hour, maybe 2 hours. And then I would go sit in on another person's ground school. So one of the great things about Mauna Loa is just being such a big school is they always had classes going all day. And you could pay, I think it was $5 to go. It sucks you have to pay, but you could pay $5 to go sit in on someone else's ground school lesson. Now, you wouldn't really talk, you wouldn't really engage, you just sit in on this one-on-one session, and if they're working on IFR too, it's extremely valuable just to sit in and listen and take notes. So you would do like hours of ground school, like from 11 to 3, you could legit be doing ground school, like 4 hours of ground school. I know it doesn't sound like a lot in terms of like college and high school or whatever, but like for a flight school and like a flight training program, it's quite a bit. And then so, you know, at 3 p.m. ground school would be over. I'd be so exhausted at this point, definitely have to go nap. So I would nap at 3:30, maybe to like 5, and then do a little bit of studying, and then have dinner, and then same thing, gym, shower, and sleep. On my CFI pilot rotation, when I was learning how to become a flight instructor, what you're going to notice here is a lot of ground school as well. 7 a.m. wake up, 8 a.m. lots of personal study during your CFI. And this is maybe not as accurate because you have to do so much homework in your CFI. It is the rating with the most amount of personal homework. Why? Because you have to come up with all your lesson plans, figure out what you're teaching, how to teach it, double check yourself. If you don't understand something, going in and finding the answer, figuring it out yourself. There's so much homework. So, you know, I would study from 8 to 10, 8 to 10:30, 2 hours in the morning. And then, you know, I would go over and do my personal ground school from like 11 to 1. During this personal ground school, you could be doing a couple different things. You could be teaching your lesson to your instructor, that your instructor asks you to come up with a lesson plan and teach it, or you could be like learning from your instructor. It's kind of a combination of both, and it's heavy. It's like a lot of mental workload. This is where you're really learning all of the concepts in depth, where you have to learn how to teach aerodynamics and principles of flight and weather and regulations and minimums and stuff. It's a lot. So you would do quite a bit. So from 11 to 1, you know, 2 hours, you would work with your instructor doing personal ground school. And then most days I would go sit in on another CFI in ground school. And if they're teaching a lesson, you know, you learn a lot from them. Or if they're just having the regular lessons with their instructor, you learn a lot from that. And then you would go do, in my experience, like during my CFI rotation, you would do your flight training later in the day, once again, for those stronger winds. You know, they try to save the calmer winds for the more delicate private and IFR initial stuff. We would go fly like CFI in the stronger winds typically. So you would fly from like 3 to 5 and 2. Now during CFI, I mean, you were doing like hours, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 hour long flights, late leaving school during your CFI pilot rotation, like 5:30 leave school, go home, have dinner, 7 to 9 p.m. gym, shower, and sleep. Now, this wasn't always true, you know. Sometimes you wouldn't have time to go to the gym, or you would be working through, like, and you would just like be eating dinner. You have a lot of homework to do, a lot of lesson plans, and your instructor's like, all right, tomorrow you're teaching me settling with power. Okay, so then you have to go home and create your whole study plan, whether it's your personal notes, whether it's visuals, whether you're doing a presentation, whether you have like a physical physical things that you're using to teach this lesson. It's a lot. So a lot of times like during your CFI, it's just the full day is packed, and it is crazy. Like looking back on it, it was a lot. Okay, during your CFII pilot training schedule, certified flight instructor instrument, kind of similar to CFI. You know, wake up at 7 a.m., study a lot and create your lesson plans and do your homework, because once again you're teaching lessons, but now you're teaching instrument related stuff, and it's a lot. There's a lot of concepts in instrument, so there's a lot of self-studying and a lot of understanding the instruments and all of the systems and avionics a lot. You would do your personal ground school from like 11 to 1, 2 hours of personal ground school, once again sitting in on someone else's ground school lesson, just being a fly on the wall and just learning and listening. You would do like a 3 to 5 p.m. flight during your CFII. Once again, you know, waiting for when the winds are a little bit stronger. No, this could be totally different. You know, you could do a morning flight, you could do a midday flight, you could do a late afternoon flight. But typically, my experience, I remember, was doing like later flights during my CFII pilot rotation. 5:30 p.m. leave school, 6 p.m. dinner, 7 to 9 p.m. gym, and then shower and sleep. So, you know, very full days. You can go do flight school just like after work, and it's definitely possible, but that's really hard and it takes a long time. You can see, like, even if you're like going to school full time, like it is very full days. During the whole thing, I mean, it's a lot. It's very full days. So let's get into the weekend schedule. Now the weekend schedule, this is fun. This is really fun. For anyone that's been watching the channel for a while, I talk about how much I love flight school, and we definitely got into some interesting activities. So I'll elaborate a little bit. The weekend schedule, there's no schedule. It's just kind of what I saw we did while I was in flight school. So Friday afternoon, where I went to flight school, Munlo Helicopters, they have student pilot housing. I don't know what it is now. It's been years since I've been there, but we had student pilot housing, and there's just a bunch of student pilots who are all in this grind together. We're just like all going through at different stages. So on the weekends, we would turn up. We would partay. And Friday afternoon, the partay would start like 4 to 6 p.m. Student pilot hangout starts, and it's not like it's scheduled. People were just like come together and mesh. The drinks would start flowing, someone would start cooking pizza, whatever. We would be outside grilling. The hangout would go until like 12 to 2 a.m. and you just needed a blow off, because it might sound easy, but like everyone in flight school, when you're going through all these different stages, people are working hard. Like it is constant studying, flights, trying to understand concepts, just really go. So on the weekend we would turn up hard, and we allowed ourselves to do that because work hard, play hard. We really believed in that. Saturday, typically we'd kind of like all wake up at some time in the late morning, maybe do breakfast together, maybe just like sit and hang out and try to get rid of our headaches. And then the cool thing about going to flight school in Hawaii is there was always an adventure to go on. Whether you want to go to waterfalls, go find some small town, just go on a drive, go on a hike, find a new beach. There was always something to do. Or we would just go to like down to the local beach. And in Hawaii, there's all sorts of local beaches. And maybe you want to like bodyboard, or maybe you want to snorkel, or maybe you just want to sit by the beach and chill and drink again. Whatever. There's always something to do. And we would always do it as like a group. There would always be like, in flight school, there's not really cliques, but you have obviously the people you get along with and they come, and then there's like a bigger group that could all hang out, or you could just go with a buddy or a friend, whatever. But you would always be doing something fun, adventure or beach. And then like Saturday afternoons, party starts again, whether it's at the same student pilot housing, maybe it's a different pilot housing, maybe it's just like someone's house or apartment, maybe go to a restaurant, go to a bar, whatever, you figure it out. But the party starts again 4 to 6 p.m., finishes again 12 to 2 a.m. Really, we kept it going. And then Sunday morning, you're trying to work off this headache that you potentially have, or like me likely had. But Sundays are also really important days because there's typically like homework you have to start doing again. Your instructor probably assigned you things that you needed to do, so you would have to go get those lessons prepped, understand things. You're working towards written tests. You're working towards check rides. You're trying to understand concepts and reading. So Sunday wasn't like, it was like a chill day, but not really. There was like typically stuff to do. So you were doing your homework or lesson prep if you're physically capable, if your brain works. And then on Sunday, I would personally typically, this is my day, I'd go to Costco, go grocery shopping, restock, meal prep. I would meal prep a lot of days, breakfast, I would have yogurt and granola, and then, snacks, or figure out what you're doing for lunch and dinner. And then you could kind of chill on your rest day. If it's football season, we were watching football. But Sunday was a work day too. So this is my rotation. This was kind of what my days look like as I went to a big flight school, as my full-time job was being a flight school student. And as you can see, they were full days. I mean, there wasn't too much just like chill watching YouTube, like watching Netflix, hanging out. It was like constantly doing stuff. If you stuck around this long, go check out my merch store if you want. I have this Pilot Devin store where I just created all these different designs. These are clothes that I've ordered these, and they'll be here soon. Just different clothing merch that I wish I could kind of wear. So for my people online that are still in flight school, if you're a pilot in progress, I thought this was like a real fun shirt or clothing design that I came up with. Pilot in progress, rotor life. We're all trying to live that rotor life, and I thought this was like really fun. So I got all sorts of stuff there. And then I have this Closer to God clothing line. I haven't talked about this much, but my religion and faith is real important to me, and I have been extremely blessed in my life, and God has looked out for me and provided me this path. So I came up with this Closer to God design. I think it's like real cool. It's like a R44 with closer to God. I don't know, that's pretty sick. I ordered a bunch of this. I'm waiting for it to come. And then I got this like standard closer to God. It's just a helicopter above the mountain range because you're physically in closer approximation to God. I think that's pretty cool. So just my little rant. If you want to go check it out, the link is in the description below. But that is my pilot training schedule as I was in flight school. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Check out this video here. I'll throw a card in. This is where I talk about how I actually studied in flight school. I had a system, but it took me a while to actually figure out how to study in flight school. So check out that video. That's how I studied in flight school. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.